Baruch here with genConnect. We're joined today by Rachel Greenwald. Rachel, so many people are talking now about whether a university education is still relevant. But one thing that they're not touching on is whether universities should be teaching other skills like dating, like how to love. Where do you come out on all this?
Well, it's interesting that the biggest factor that determines the success of a college alumni 20, 30, 50 years after they leave campus is their happiness in a personal relationship. And it's not the skills that they learn to succeed in work, but the skills that they learn to succeed in relationships. And that's something that's not even being discussed in any kind of classroom setting on university campuses today. So at Ideas Fest this week, I'm talking about whether it's possible to start to teach students when they're on campuses in age 18 to 22 some of the skills that will later help them be successful in dating. Sheryl Sandberg's book Lean In had the best line that I've heard, which is that 90% of your success in your career will be based on who your partner is at home. And if that's true, universities need to be educating students in these kinds of skills. For example, Duke University now has a class called How to Be in Love. And I found that fascinating. They're not the only ones teaching that kind of course. University of Kentucky, University of Illinois, they're both doing something similar. These are 6 and 8 part series workshops that are usually under the umbrella of the counseling center. But I thought that's sort of an interesting model to share that, first of all, validates that being in a successful relationship requires skills that are teachable.
So what's an example of a teachable skill?
Well, that's a great question. One example is compromise. I think most people today label it settling, that settling is a bad word and that you are unsuccessful in finding a mate if you had to settle. But most adults in happy relationships know that compromise is a big part of being in a couple. And so,
does that mean compromising in terms of who your mate is, or compromising once you're in the relationship?
No, once you're in the relationship. Thank you for
Okay.
clarifying that. Once you're in the relationship, but also compromising in the things that are meaningful versus not meaningful. So, for example, if you really want to find a mate who likes to golf because you like to golf, and you end up falling in love with a great guy who is smart and funny and kind, but he doesn't play golf, that is a compromise of sorts from your ideal mate, but learning that that's something that can make you happy. And so going back into the classroom setting, I think that just opening dialogue about what is compromise versus settling, and having those conversations in an environment with smart peers and professors who can ask the right questions is really teaching a valuable lifelong skill that I think universities would be smart to cultivate in their alumni. Down the road, whether or not you can balance a budget in a company is something that if you didn't learn it in college, a manager or mentor can probably teach you on the job. But conversely, in relationships, if you didn't learn in sort of your formative dating years basic skills like basic knowledge that some things are okay and some things aren't. Like, what is the difference between a toxic relationship and a healthy relationship? And how do you screen dates? What is what is the definition of someone who treats you with respect versus someone who is manipulating you for some gain? These are very soft skills that require, I think, a lot of open dialogue in the classroom. It's especially important for women because women today are delaying marriage in pursuit of their career in their 20s, and they're ending up in their 30s and 40s thinking that they can have it all, but they wake up and realize that suddenly the men who are their peers that they used to date in their 20s are now looking for women 10 years younger. So it's a really tricky place for women who have fertility issues, and biology is dictating the timing of finding the right relationship. So it's important for women to start having that dialogue early about creating healthy relationships and understanding that compromise isn't a bad word. It's not settling. It's actually a mature approach to relationships. And those are things that, had they known in their 20s, they would probably be in the right relationship for them by the time they reach their mid-30s, instead of coming to me as a dating coach at 35, 45, and beyond, and really struggling to find the right man at that point.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
And for more, be sure to check out genConnect.